Councilor Thorny.
You're alive.
All right, welcome. This is a regular scheduled meeting of City Council workshop. First up on the agenda is meeting with city manager, well, Eden Peabody, I'll say, and Don Garrett. We have Don Garrett here, going to provide us with a timeline and the search process. So I'll just hand it over to you.
Well, thank you.
But before we start, I should go around the table. We have Councilor Millard, Councilor Beck, Councilor Dean, Councilor Hawes, Councilor Fitch, myself, Councilor Fournier, and we have our council chair, Pelletier, on Zoom. So, Dawn?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to work with all of you on this. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a Bangor person. I was born and raised in Bangor, went to Bangor High School. And my family used to live on the corner of Lincoln and Webster Avenue. So that's where I was born and raised. So I've worked for Eden Peabody now for almost 15 years. I think you saw in the material I sent you, I was a town manager in a number of communities in Maine, 10 years in Gorham, and then 20 years in Brunswick, which I retired from. And since that time, I've worked for Eden Peabody Consulting Group, doing work with communities throughout the state of Maine. Actually, I came up and did some work with the Bangor City Council, and in the, I guess it was 8 or 9 years ago, maybe. So I do work with that. I do interim work, helping communities, and I've done about 70 of these type of searches. So that's a little bit about what I do and have done. I've just finished up Lewiston, and I am finished up Gorham. So this timing worked out well for me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my philosophy about a search and what I like to do, but I'm here to work for you. And if you folks have areas you want to do that I haven't presented, I'm open to that too. But a little bit about my philosophy. I feel it's important that all of the councilors be part of the process. I think it's works better when you're all here, all can be part of the interview process. Whoever you're interviewing, you're going to be their bosses, and they need to see you and you need to see them. So that's a little bit about my philosophy. We're going to talk about the timeline I sent up earlier to all of you. And I think this is important too. This is important for me and for you, so we all know the timeframes we're going to use to get through this process. But it's also important for the candidates, so they understand process. The market is not what it used to be. Going out and searching for new city managers. The numbers that we're getting, we're not getting the numbers or the quality of people that we have in the past. But it only takes one person for the job. So that's our goal, is to find someone for the city. And so I'd like, as we go through this tonight, is to get some consensus on the timeline. And this is flexible. We can change dates and move things around. But this process that I originally put together in a draft would have somebody at least named by the first week in April. Now, usually when you name somebody or you offer them a contract and you have them sign it, most people, if they're in a position, are going to need today 30, 45, 60 days, some even longer, before they can move from their existing job. So usually it's 2.5 months that we go through the process. Sometimes it goes out. One community recently, 2 communities, we had to go back out again. We went through it once, didn't get the numbers of the people that we wanted, and so we went back out. Just a little bit about my fee. I'm here to hire somebody. My fee doesn't change. If we go out 3 times, God help us, we won't do that. But, whatever, I'm here and my fee stays the same. The only additional cost, if we had to go out a second time, the third time, is advertising costs and some expenses there. So, that's a little bit about, the process that I use. And so what I normally do is we'll approve this timeline, and there's some issues in here that I need feedback from. But we'll go through this timeline. Once the timeline is done and everything is agreeable, I put the ad out. You'll get a chance to approve that. The ads come to our office. They come to me in our office. Not ads, the resumes. Each week I will send out to all of you at the end of the week, how many we've got, how many are from Maine, because I think that's important, but you'll know every week how many we have. At the end of the time, the resumes are due, they will come in, we will then put together a booklet for you with all the resumes in it. But I will send you a memo of those I think you ought to interview, and I will do preliminary discussions with the candidates. I probably talked to all of them, but preliminarily, I talked to the ones that I am recommending that you consider to interview. So then we'll have a meeting, executive session, you'll get all the resumes, and then we'll discuss which ones you'd like to interview. You'll make the choice. I will give you my input, but you will have the choice, and you will see all the resumes. I feel very strongly on that you all ought to see what the resumes look like. Once we do that, we'll set up interviews for the candidates. Most likely, depending where they are, there'll be a Zoom meeting, maybe to some that are out of state. But if they can be here, we'll do it live. I will draft some questions that I have used, and from what I hear from all of you, I will send out to all of you. You can review them. You can change them. If you don't like them, just tell me. But it primes the pump of what questions we might want to ask everybody when we have the interviews. After the first round of interviews, you will decide on finalists. 1, 2, 3, depends on the quality we get and the numbers. For the finalists, we will do complete background checks on those finalists. That's education, that's criminal, that's financial. We'll do follow-up on references, not just the references they give us, but other people that have worked with whoever we're looking at, and you'll get a full report from me with everything I found out about all the candidates, and you'll have that. Then we'll do the second round of interviews. Second round of interviews will be depending on who they are. It could include, it will be a cost to the city if we bring anybody in for that. If we have to fly somebody in or put them up, there will be a cost to the city for doing that. And we encourage candidates to bring their spouses, significant others with them when they come and meet with you folks. It makes sure the whole family is agreeable to what's going to happen and make the move, and bring those them in and have interviews with all of you. Now, having said that, one of the things, so that's kind of the process, and then you'll make a final decision. I will negotiate a contract if you want me to. That's part of the services I will provide to you. Negotiate a contract. I'm not an attorney, but I've done these a lot, and we negotiate a contract, and I always say for you to have your city attorney look at the final document, but having me in between is the best way to do that when you're negotiating the contract. So that's a little bit about the process. So from there, any questions on that? If one of the questions is anybody else going to be involved in the interviews? I'll ask that question to you. I'm a firm believer, but I'll do what you want. that you're elected to do it and you ought to be the ones that do the interviews. Now, if you want other people to be involved, that's up to you and we can work that through the process. I'm gonna take a step back. One of the things I offer is to meet with all your department heads individually. And I ask them two questions. I ask them, what are they looking for in a new city manager? And I ask them, what are the issues facing Bangor in the next 5 years? Because that starts to paint a picture of what they see as issues and what they're looking for. And I also offer to hold a public meeting and invite the public to come in, and I ask them the same two questions. And so you get an idea from your staff and from the public of what they see the issues are and what they're looking for. Now, I run that meeting, just so you all know, and I'm very positive that we're here to go forward. We're not going backwards. Everything's going to be positive, and I make sure that we do that. The rest of your staff and citizens who cannot make that, my email address will be on the notice. Anybody can email me their thoughts. And I put together a document that's public and for you. Now it's not an in-depth saying paragraphs of what people said. It's more of the sense of what they're saying to me. We don't want a micromanager. We want someone who will come out and meet the public. Those type of snippets that you hear from people. And it really starts to paint a picture of what staff is looking for in the citizens and from what I'll ask you to do the same thing, what you're looking for. So that is public. And when I get it done, you can put it on your website. Candidates are interested in that to see what is going on. And so I offer that to you. Some communities don't want me to do that. So that's kind of the first question I need to understand from all of you. Is that something that you would like me to do?
I think it's important to have that information. Can't get to everybody, but I think the department heads and people that they're gonna be working with should have a say. I mean, they're gonna have to meld together here, so I would like to see that you do that.
Does that sound, I just, because that makes a difference in the time frame, if I'm going to do that or not, so.
Yeah, I like that idea. You know, it gives a chance for possible candidates to kind of decide for themselves if they fit that and, you know, not waste our time if they're not going to work out for what we're looking for.
And I did Lewiston's and, I met with all the department heads. We had a public meeting. We didn't have it on Zoom. People can get on Zoom if they want to ask. So I got a lot of emails from this other department heads from staff, which was good.
Mhm.
And it's confidential, just so you all know. When I give it to you, it's just gonna give you the thoughts. It's not gonna say who said them,
Mhm.
just so that they can feel free to tell me whatever they want to tell me. So, does that seem like something you would like me to do?
I think it's a great idea. I just don't want to push the time out too far by adding extra steps.
Well, I didn't. In my time frame, I made it a short time frame to get that done. So, well, that's good. So let's take a look at this timeline. So tonight's the 13th, we're meeting. I made an assumption, maybe that was wrong, that you might want me to do the public meetings and the department head interviews. If we're gonna do that, I'd like to get the ad out for the public as soon as possible. And I'll work with staff to do that. And again, you're all welcome to come, but I will make sure I run the meeting, and it just puts you folks so you can listen or watch. And if you can tape it and show it afterwards, that would be great too. The more information we can get out, I think is important. So I had put down the week of the 20th to the 23rd. That's a couple weeks. It's next week. I can push that out 1 week. We got time to push it out. Depends on how much time you need to advertise for it. And maybe Courtney or, I don't, what do you want, a week? You want 2 weeks to give the public a notice? That's the only question.
You mean for the public meeting?
Yeah,
Oh, typically we don't send out materials until the Friday before anyway, so I would say a week.
Mhm.
all right, so if you approve it tonight, we can get the notice out next week and set up the time for the public meeting. And what I'll do is have staff set up times for me to meet with each of the department heads. So I'll come up one day, meet with the department heads that day, stay for the public meeting that night, and get that done. So if we can do that next week, that would be great. The other thing I will do is draft an ad for your review. I'll work with the staff on that. And your input, we will send it to you to look at and just give feedback to me so that, you know, we can move it along. So that would be the key on that. So then if we can do all that and get approval of the ad, we'll place the ad on Tuesday, the 28th, January 28th. And we give 4 weeks for the ad to be placed. So then the next question is, where do you want to place the ad? Where do you want to run it?
What do you recommend?
Well, first of all, ICMA, the International City Managers Association.
Mhm.
That's the national association of 13,000 members. People looking for jobs nationwide are gonna look there. MMA in the state, it'd be one. Many of the communities I've worked with like the idea of concentrating in New England.
Yeah. makes sense.
To see if we, you know, the tie to Maine and New England.
Mhm.
So I would suggest we look at Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Vermont, maybe even New York, and those concentrate on that area. We can also, I just be honest, looked at the one you had last time you did it, and just my opinion, this is overkill because you're duplicating a number of these. We can, National League of Cities, I think would be good. And on the minority side, I think the Black administrators and some other ones here. So if you allow me to pick them, I will do it and get those out. So we'd want to do that at the same time for all of them. That's okay. The cost, the ICMA is $450 for a month. Massachusetts and New Hampshire, Massachusetts is a little more expensive now. Massachusetts and New Hampshire are almost 1,000. So I suspect you're gonna spend $2,500 total, maybe even 3,000 advertising. So you'll know that. So if we do that, then the deadline will be February 25th. Are you open on Fridays?
Mhm.
Okay, that's good. We will have the booklets. These are booklets with all the resumes, my recommendations, overnighted here for Friday, that Friday on the 28th. So you will all have them on the 28th. And then we need to then schedule a meeting for us to get together. And I just put down March 3rd to the 6th. Sometime in that period, we need probably an hour and a half to meet, go over them. Like I said, I will have recommendations for you that I think you should consider, but this is your choice. And I tell everyone, an interview is an hour of your time. So if you see something in the resumes that I didn't pick up, then we ought to discuss it amongst all of you. It's just an hour of your time, and you learn a lot by doing interviews. You probably all have done them, but I find you learn something by doing that. So we'll get more into that when that happens. So we do the March 3rd through the 6th, and I do the interviews the very next week. Because we can get those done. People, if they're from out of state, most likely will be Zoom. We'll invite everybody to come, but if they come the first round, it's on their cost if they want to come. And so we'll do the interviews that next week, probably 2 days, depending on the number of, candidates that we get, where they're from, and we'll work out the logistics of that. And like I said, I will provide you all some draft questions, and we'll have questions. And for the first round of interviews, we use the same questions for everybody to be comparable, with everybody that, comes in. And then making decision on who the finalists are. And we'll do it that week of March 10th through the 13th. And once you decide on who the finalists are, then probably at least 2 weeks later, we'll schedule the second round of interviews. And, the question about the second round of interviews is there's 2 parts of that. One is, many of the communities I have worked with recently have allowed, and I support this, department heads to interview the finalists. It's not that they have a vote. They don't. It's your call. The way we do that is to bring them in, and it's a meeting with the candidate and all the department heads. They ask questions. The department head can ask them question. It gives the finalists an idea of the staff. At the end of it, I ask staff, what do you like? What concerns do you have? That's all I ask them. And I do it to the finalists. And when you interview the finalists, I bring that information to you. Again, that is directly from them, and it helps you make your decision. Some places have done what we call a meet and greet. Other places, we have not done that. A meet and greet the candidates would be public. And then the public can come in on an informal basis and meet the candidates. That causes some problems sometimes. You have some candidates who don't want their name out there unless they're really the finalist for the position. I've had that happen the last 2 times I've done this. And so we were gonna do a meet and greet, and in the end, the council felt that it was better not to. You may lose candidates if you make it public at the end. And just letting you know that happens. You might lose some good candidates. I think department head's important. The meet and greet, I think the public has an opportunity up here to give us their input. Meet and greet, I would say it's more and more difficult to find good candidates. Unless you want to do it, and we can do it. I would say let's just, well, I need to know if you like the department head's opportunity to interview the finalists.
Having the department heads interview candidates, the finalists, makes absolutely a lot of sense. The public meet and greet, we did that the last time,
Yeah, it was
a
that
couple
helpful.
of years ago. It seemed awkward to me, but both candidates were fine with it, because they were both out of state.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Well, the other issue comes up too, just so you know. If we get down to it and there's one candidate that you all like, it sends it. You're sending one person out and they've been through the process, so. So we are gonna do the department heads. I think that's
Yeah.
That's-
legitimate,
yes.
not do the meet and greet. So then we'll have the meeting on the 24th through the 27th. You'll make your decision, and then the next week we have to negotiate a contract. And if this all works lovely, like I pointed out, we'll have somebody the first week of April. This may move a week or here or there because of timing from people being able to come and things like that. But I would ask that the councilors, at least for these dates, put them in your calendars so that we all know this is the process that we're going through. And everything goes well, last week we get a contract and have someone named, and someone here could be happy that they found a replacement for them, and we're not saying who that is. But so that's the way I do it. I'll open any questions you have about process. Again, I think I've done this a lot, and Just as an example, I did Bar Harbor when I hired the manager before, we had 60 applications. I did it 8 years later and we got 15 applications. Just the nature of the business out there today. And, so.
Council Chair Pelletier.
Thank you. A couple of things. Love the idea of getting public input on what they're hoping to see in a new city manager. And think it's really important for the department heads to have an opportunity to meet any finalists. So agree with that. I do want the council to know I am out of town on vacation, March 26th through the 31st. So, we'll could do the 24th and 25th for final interviews, but just want to put those dates out there now so that we can plan around them if needed.
We can, I mean, if we moved it 1 week, it won't make a big difference. So,
Other questions, comments? Councilor Hawes?
It was the week of March 3 to 6 that you were talking about meeting with the council to review the resumes. I think we need to make that priority. So as, whatever we have to do to get as many of us here as possible. We could always set aside a workshop or something if we needed to.
if we had a date now, we'll put it in.
It would be
It
my
would be
suggestion.
executive session.
We could do it on a-
That's what I'm saying, we could do it.
And I'm away 7 through 14, so if we can, yeah, so
6.
I know, but
It would be my suggestion that you schedule a separate workshop night. Your Monday committee nights are pretty full. Depending on the number of applicants you get, you really want to invest the time you need and chat through, all of your options with, Dawn. So we would make that either a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and I can have Dave Warren in our office kind of find which day it is better. And we'll just schedule it.
What's good with Dawn's schedule?
I am open right now.
Sure.
My
Okay.
schedule will work for your schedule.
So we'll find
Why
a
don't
night
you
that
have-
works for all of you.
Mhm.
The other thing is, I know Dawn likes to do a lot of things in person because it's easier, but we always have the Zoom option. It would all be an executive session, so we can be pretty flexible so that folks,
Mhm.
but I think it's helpful when you have this, it's harder, as Council Chair Pelletier knows, it's harder to be part of the conversation sometimes when you're on Zoom.
Councilor Fish?
This seems like, a short window to hire someone is important, as the next city manager is gonna be for us, and hopefully we get lucky, and this is going to bring us a good candidate. If it does not, and we start running out of time, is there, a consideration for an interim? How would that work if, our manager is leaving in May and we're at the end of March and there just isn't a candidate we feel fits the bill best for Bangor? What do we do in that time crunch?
So, and this is what happened the last time. We ran into that issue, so we did appoint an interim city manager at that point. I don't know if we need to cross that right now. Or we can, if we so choose, but if we can stick to this timeline,
I'm
and
thinking,
if it stays in line, we still have 2 months leeway, so it will give us a little bit of a cushion. That's my 2 cents.
I think
Councilor Pelletier?
Thank you. I just had one more thing to add. I love the emphasis on asking, at least in the first round, all of the candidates the same questions. Would be also interested in whether or not you recommend that we use a standard rubric for scoring responses so that we're able to sort of compare apples to apples when it comes to feedback, or how you recommend that we go about scoring.
I certainly can provide you one that I've used. I'm more of the old fashioned. I've been telling you, you know what you see, and it hasn't been an issue getting consensus on interviews. It really has to me, but I've used them also in some of mine. If you'd like one, certainly can put one together. That's not an issue for me. if you'd like one. If that's more accustomed to what you've used, I certainly can do that for you.
Counselor Beck.
Just want to circle back around. We talked about meetings next week, with materials going out Friday. Do we need to give any kind of official approval to make that happen, or is it, we're all set? Okay, that was it.
I have a notice that I've used, and I'll send it down about the public meeting. And it just describes what's gonna happen and that you're invited, and here are some questions we want you to answer. I can send that down first thing to get that out.
Other questions?
I was just gonna add one thing. It is as important to go through this process. And if somebody or one of the candidates don't fit what you need, then we need to go back out. We're not, and I would highly, you're not here just to fill the position and making a big decision, and you have to do that. And the second point I would point out is we'll interview a lot of people, and there'll be a lot that are qualified, I hope. What I hope there will. But it's not always the person with the most experience. They need to have experience and education and whatever, but it's the person who fits your community. That that I've seen in my doing this is as important as anything else. They've got to fit into what you're looking for and the community itself. So I just wanted to add those.
Thank you. My only question was, how many applications did you get for Lewiston?
First time around, we got 8, and we went back out and we got 12. But the second time, the 12, we had 4 excellent candidates. And we were going to interview 4, 1 dropped out, so we interviewed 3. So I tell this story. I did Vinyl Haven. They were looking for a new manager. And I was saying, oh my goodness, I don't know what we're gonna get for Vinyl Haven. We put the ad out and we had 6 applications. 2 was someone who, both of them had experience and both of them lived on Vinyl Haven. So you just never know what you're going to get. So, I mean, I would hope we would get anywhere from 18 to 25 applications. That's what I would hope we would see. Many of them will not fill the bill. We'll get some applications. So if we got 20, I'd be very happy. And we have 4 good ones. So that's what I'm shooting for. The other issue you need to think about is salary. Your salary pay scale right now is 11 steps. The bottom of the scale for this position is around 123,000. The top is 166,000. I would recommend that you consider 160 to 190 as your range for this. Every community in the last 5 years that I've worked with, the salary has had to go up. You want quality people to come, and it's an important job, and the pay has to be in that range. Lewiston, we just went out 165 to 195. That was the range. Portland's, I think, is 180 to 230. They're paying 225, I think, right now. There's a number of communities in Maine, smaller than you, are paying 165 to 175,000 for managers. So as the 3rd largest in the state with the issues that you have here, I would highly recommend you consider a higher range. And when I do the ad, I'll put something in you can look at it, but I wanted to raise it now to you, as you're looking at it. So that's where we are. If this is, you like this and this is what you want, we'll get moving on it.
Oh, you're going to apply? Yes.
It's open to anybody who would like to apply.
Have to resign.
Anything else?
No, this is very helpful.
This is-
There are three of us that have gone through this before, so we have a little history here among us, so that's good.
Well, it's an important part of what you do. I would say is one of the most important things that you do as the elected official in this community. And, you need to all be part of it. You all need to. And there's no stupid questions. There's nothing that we can't talk about. I'm here to be a resource for all of you to get the best person for this position and for the community. So,
Great.
good. Thank you. Nice to meet all of you. I look
You
forward,
too?
come back to my hometown and visit, and it has changed since I left in 1968. So, I tell you, a lot of things have changed here. So, thank you very much.
All right, thank you,
Thank you.
John.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, next up on the agenda, city manager updates.
Looking for a piece of paper because, oh, she forgot she was up next. Yes, she
Put
did.
those dates in your books. This will have to pretty much stick to those.
City's conference.
Yeah, because it was under that other file.
National,
Yeah.
You know what? It's during my.
the
We're
national.
doing a little out of order tonight, but we're gonna go into
Yeah.
a committee meeting, and then executive session, so it didn't feel right to come in and out of workshop sessions, so, at a recent council meeting, Counselor, or it might have been a committee meeting, Counselor Mallor had asked, to ask who was working with whom in the encampment. So I got that information last week. So there are 27 individuals who are working with the PATH team, and the PATH team is a subset of community health and counseling services. There are 7 people who are working with the home team. The home team is an extension of Penobscot Community Healthcare, or PCHC.
Before you go on.
Yeah,
That's great, but I want to see a chart of if I am number one as the recipient of which groups am I working for? If I'm number 2, which groups I'm working for? I want to see if we're productively using the groups that we have out there, and I can only see that if I can
Right.
find out how many they're working for, if there's much duplication of that.
there is no duplication. So if somebody is either working with the PATH team, they are working with a home team. They are working with VA. The only duplication comes in that, there are 16 individuals who are working with Crossroads, which is a case management service versus a navigation or an outreach. So that's the only overlap, and it is not a duplicative services being offered. There are any other number of groups that are out there that aren't working for housing navigation and outreach specifically, that are providing additional services.
Okay, so then what I understand is that we are not, you do not have an overview of all the groups that are working out there.
So when you say all of the groups that are working out there, what do you mean by that?
I
Do you
mean,
mean the group?
I
No,
mean
do
the
you
groups that are providing services to people in the
Correct,
homeless
so
area.
those are the 3 primary groups that are providing outreach and case management. In addition, in addition to that, our city outreach will only go out there if there's an individual that we're working with and we have an appointment. There is a community mobile medical team that goes out once a week. There is an options overdose routine team that goes out once a week. And there is a syringe service provider that goes out once a week. Those are the only organizations providing services that we're aware of that, so there could be any number of other community groups that are out there, but we don't have a sense of who all of those folks may be.
Okay. I'd still like to see a chart.
Okay,
So.
Yeah.
The community groups that you just touched on,
yeah,
there's no one that's really tracking,
that's
I mean, unless they're doing it themselves,
right.
we wouldn't know how many of those were working with 25 of the people or 10 of the people or all of
So
the people.
most of the times, the community groups are going out to serve a particular purpose. So we know, for example, that a group may go out and do a meal. We know, for example, that a group may go out and walk through and chat with people. It was, I think sometime in December, we had a church group go up, provide a meal and horseback rides. We found out about that because somebody told us. So there are a lot of groups that, okay.
But that's an interesting point. You brought up a church group went out and
Correct.
provided horseback riding.
Right,
Which is fine, I think that's great. But if we don't know who they are that's going out, we have assumed a liability if someone gets hurt. That is not acceptable. Who is out there working with the people that are there? We need to know.
So
Before they arrive.
so we know the organizations who are charged with doing that work and who are doing that work. If an individual walks onto our property, engages in any activity, the city has protection.
That's an individual, but this is not an individual.
But
This
these
is
are
a
groups of
group.
individuals. These are groups of
I-
individuals.
I challenge that and ask the attorney for that, because it seems to me once you have an organized group going, you have a problem. And once you bring animals in, you have more of a problem. If we do not know who is there, it's still our property that they're on.
But what we don't know, if 5 people show up in a public park to engage in some other activity.
In horseback riding for the
And-
public, I don't think we'd have that.
Correct. Well, that was an extreme example, but I'm saying, you're saying if any group shows up to do anything, we ought to know.
No, that's
I'm-
not what I said. I said if groups show up with animals, that horseback riding, the
Okay,
potential.
that was the one and only time that I'm aware of that.
The potential of problems are greater than if they just show up individually.
I will have
And
the
I
city
think-
solicitor provide you
yeah, I
an
think we
opinion
should
on the
know.
Maine Tort Claims
I
Act.
think we should know what's going on as far as liability. I don't want to be open to,
But the city has a
Claims.
great deal of protections under the Maine Tort Claims Act as it relates to acts individuals engage on public property. So we would have to have encouraged it, we would have had to have been negligent, we would have had to have been aware. We have hundreds of people on our public property every day.
I'm sure we do, but not in the same situation. These
But
people
it
are,
doesn't, the situation
people
doesn't
are-
matter.
I beg to differ, but that's beside, I'm not an attorney, so I can't say one way or the other. Now we have advice.
The Maine Tort Claims Act has immunity for government entities with respect to most, with respect to tort claims, unless the tort claim fits within one of the specified exceptions to immunity under the statute. There are 4 narrow exceptions to immunity under the statute. And I don't see that those would fit, they would not fit under any of those exceptions.
So we would be fully immune from any activity on public land because it doesn't fit into one of these
Okay.
very narrow.
I'm always concerned about liability. I always
there
look on
we-
the docks, you know I am.
Well, look, you're preaching, we're with you.
Yeah.
If we were concerned from a liability perspective, we would have taken other steps.
The tort-
I was gonna say, Council Chair Pelletier.
Thank you. My request is just that we have one person talking at a time. The owl can't quite keep up. So, if we can allow each other to finish before we jump in, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Back at you. City updates.
All right, just wanted to make folks aware that, the date for the special election to fill the District 24 representative seat that was vacated when, Joe Perry was appointed state treasurer has been scheduled, and it is set for Tuesday, February 25th. Councilors Beck and Hawes, will be representing, Bangor at National League of Cities this year, so thank you. We have a couple of upcoming topics for GovOps. You've heard a lot about the Fixed Stop, you've heard a lot about our driver training program, so we're gonna do a complete update at GovOps early February. And likely in March, the new fire chief will have had a whole 5 weeks And hope to come back and talk to you about, our emergency preparedness and kind of provide an overall update. But I'm being a little generous because he will have been 5 weeks in. Oh, no, we started January 6th, almost 8 weeks in. I don't know. I'd have to ask the public health director how long we have to make that wait. So,
So just to that point.
yeah,
We've had a couple of emails come through, with everything going on in California. Citizens have been a little bit concerned about what is our preparedness for that, so.
Yep.
Just to lay it out, thanks.
and then on Friday, the governor released her biennial budget for 2026 and 2027. It is a massive document and it is not, if you're not living in the world, not easy to kind of plot our way through. We know that we have a number of groups that we are members with who will be getting recaps out to us. And obviously, it is the starting point, for future legislative action. As that information becomes available, we'll continue to provide an update. And you can also expect, I'm not quite sure how quickly the bills are going to be printed. But you can expect that we will begin to have some regular, legislative updates at council workshops, coming right up. So, I did see, and I think we talked about it a little bit when we met with, our legislative delegation, that they are continuing to talk about making some adjustments to their rules to try to limit the number of bills. The other item I saw them talk about too was, there was a significant use of concept drafts in the last session. And a concept draft could say, you know, today I want to promote Counselor Rick Fournier to serve as governor. And that's, they would just say a title and there wasn't a lot of meat to it. And what would happen is the actual language wouldn't show up until the hearing happened. And it made it really difficult for all of us to be really inform ourselves of what the implications are, determine if it's something or not, whether or not the city wanted to support it or speak in opposition to it. So I did hear them speaking about they were going to ask for at least 3 days of public notice. So I think we would all like to have more than that, but 3 days is certainly more than what did they do last night and what did that bill say? So I know that I think they were very uncomfortable in the last session and they are trying to work to resolve some of those hiccups. So.
Great. Questions? The city manager? If not, I'll then close the, well, we won't close it because we have, to go into executive session, but we'll go right into GovOps.
I think we need to create a new. How do you want to do that?
So I make a motion to go into executive session
And then go into GovOps after that?
You have two
Yes.
motions, right?
after the executive session, you'll come back and we'll open GovOps.
Okay, gotcha.
You.
I have a motion to go into executive session.
Sure. Don't do it?
Sure. I'll make a motion, going executive session under 1 MRSA 405, C, 6, section C, disposition of real property or economic development.
Second.
And
And you have another one.
Oh, I have another motion here for executive session, 1 MRSA 405-6, section E, consultation with city solicitor.
Second.
we have a motion, we have a second. We have to do a roll call vote. Councilor Chair Pelletier,
Yes.
Councilor Millar,
Yes.
Councilor Beck,
Yes.
Councilor Dean,
Yes.
Councilor Hawes.
Yes.
Councilor Fish,
Yes.
I will be a yes as well. We are in executive session.